Many years ago, in a typical Nigerian compound, a quiet woman named Wendy moved into room number 12. The compound was one of those busy Nigerian compounds where privacy was expensive because conversations traveled without visa and people knew each other's rent status, quarrels, family secrets, and cooking timetable. When Wendy arrived, she did not come with drama or trailer blocking the gates. Rather, she just came with two suitcases, one small freezer, one red pot, and a husband who looked permanently happy. Well, that was the first suspicious sign. Her husband greeted everybody. Good evening. People responded politely, evening, but their eyes were measuring. After all, new tenants must be studied. It is the law. Wendy was quiet. She was not proud. She smiled and greeted everyone properly, and she did not overshare. Now, that alone made Mama Ifeanyi uncomfortable. Mama Ifeanyi was the unofficial intelligence officer of the compound. She did not collect salary, but she collected information faithfully. If something moved, she knew, and if something smelled different, she would investigate it. 3 days after Wendy moved in, a strange event happened. It was a Wednesday afternoon. The sun was high. The children were restless and Mama Ifeanyi was arguing with someone about borrowed salt when suddenly the air changed. It was subtle at first. A smell floated, particularly stew smell. This was not an ordinary stew smell, oh. Not I mistakenly added 20 Maggi smell. This one was rich, deep and confident. It entered noses boldly and refused to leave. Mama Ifeanyi paused. Wait, she said slowly. The other woman sniffed. Who is cooking? The smell grew stronger that even the children stopped running. One small boy abandoned his biscuits and looked around like a dog that heard a whistle. Something is happening, he said seriously. From inside her room, Felicia lifted her head from where she was shaving her armpits. She sniffed. The smell reached every corner of the compound. It climbed stairs, entered windows, and passed through doors without knocking. Even the landlord cleared his throat from his balcony and asked, "Who is cooking like this?" Within 5 minutes, all activities reduced and questions floated everywhere. Is it Christmas? No. Is it wedding? No? Then what is the occasion? The smell was not just food. It was temptation. It was memory. It was accusation. In fact, it was an unfair advantage. Mama Ifeanyi followed her nose like a trained officer and observed. It is coming from the new woman's side. Everyone slowly turned towards Wendy's room. The door was closed, but the window was half open, so steam rose confidently. Felicia whispered, "Maybe she's a caterer." Mama Ifeanyi narrowed her eyes. No ordinary caterer cooks like this without announcing. They decided to send the children there first because children are the safest spies. Go and check, Mama Ifeanyi ordered one boy. Check what? The boy asked. Just look and see what she's cooking. The boy approached Wendy's window cautiously and stood on tiptoe. Then he came back running. What did you see? They asked him eagerly. I saw a red pot. There was silence for a minute, then they asked, "Anything else?" I saw pepper. Is that all? The boy nodded. The women looked at one another. That can't be possible. Pepper does not smell like that alone. Meanwhile, inside, Wendy stirred her stew calmly. She was unaware that an investigation had begun outside. Just then, she added something from a small bowl and steam rose again, stronger this time. Outside, Mama Ifeanyi gasped. Can you smell that? What? She added something. The smell has tripled. Felicia's eyes widened. What kind of something could it be? Mama Ifeanyi lowered her voice. I don't know yet, but that was enough to begin speculations immediately. Maybe she learned from the village. Maybe her mother is from the river. Maybe she feeds her husband something. At that same moment, Wendy's husband stepped outside, stretching happily. he said loudly. Wendy's stew is ready. That sentence sealed everything. Wendy. Mama Ifeanyi repeated slowly. So, that was the name of the magician. Wendy's husband smiled at the compound. My wife cooks very well, he announced proudly to nobody in particular. Well, that was mistake number 2. How dare you praise excellence loudly in a shared compound? Felicia leaned close to Mama Ifeanyi. Do you think she's normal? Mama Ifeanyi folded her arms. We shall see. By evening, nobody cooked anything heavy because their motivation had left. Every pot in the compound now felt inferior. When the men returned from work and asked questions like, why does the compound smell like a hotel? The women answered defensively, it is the new tenants. They raised their eyebrows. Oh! But that all carried weight. Unfortunately, by night, the smell still remained in the tenants' memory. They lay on their beds thinking about it. Some felt hungry again, while some felt threatened. Mama Ifeanyi could not sleep properly. This is not ordinary, she muttered. Felicia, who was in her room, sent a message to another neighbor. That little boy said she added something brown. What's brown? The neighbor asked. I don't know yet, Felicia replied. Well, by morning, the compound had reached a conclusion without evidence. The new woman with the red pots, with the brown liquid, with the husband smiling too much, was now a possible threat. Nobody announced it formally. It simply settled in the air like dust. At the tap that morning, Mama Ifeanyi stood with authority. She washed vegetables slowly while watching everyone's face. Did you people sleep well? She asked casually. Felicia answered carefully. Yes, so Mama Ifeanyi lowered her voice. That smell yesterday was not ordinary. 2 women immediately drew closer. It entered my room and refused to leave, one of them said. Can you believe that my own children refused to eat my soup? Another woman complained. They said it doesn't smell like Wendy's own. The name Wendy was now said with caution. Felicia shook her head. I heard she poured something brown into the pots. What's brown? I don't know. She kept it in a small bowl. Mama Ifeanyi clicked her tongue. That sound meant suspicion was confirmed. Another woman whispered, maybe it is stock. Mama Ifeanyi turned sharply. Stock? Stock does not smell like that. The group went silent. One woman crossed herself. Let us be careful. That was how the Committee of Concern was born. It was not official. No chairman was elected, but everybody knew Mama Ifeanyi was in charge and they agreed on one thing. They must increase observation. That afternoon, Wendy greeted them politely as she returned from the market. Good afternoon. Afternoon, they responded in chorus, but Wendy noticed something different. The greeting felt thinner. Inside her room, she began preparing another meal, unaware that her kitchen had become a national threat. Outside, children were recruited again. Mama Ifeanyi called one small boy and said, if I give you biscuits, will you help me? Yes, the little boy replied. Okay, stand near her window when she cooks. Tell me everything you see. The boy nodded seriously and went off. By evening, smoke rose again. The smell returned stronger than before. It wrapped around the compound boldly this time around. Felicia inhaled deeply. It is happening again, oh. Men who were playing draft stopped. Why does it smell like this every time? One man even joked. Maybe she's cooking goats from heaven. Nobody laughed properly because suspicion does not allow full laughter. The boy's spy ran back breathless. She's staring, oh. What else? She poured brown water into the pots. There were gaps. Then Mama Ifeanyi asked, did you see where she kept it? In the cupboard, the little boy replied. Mama Ifeanyi straightened. This is no longer ordinary. Felicia whispered. Should we ask her? Mama Ifeanyi frowned. Ask her what? If it is something spiritual, will she tell you? The women nodded. That made sense in their minds. Meanwhile, Wendy's husband stepped out again, stretching happily. My wife's stew is ready, he announced proudly to no one in particular. Mama Ifeanyi stared at him. This man is too happy, she said. It is very suspicious, Felicia agreed. That night, the committee met properly near the staircase. Mama Ifeanyi cleared her throat and began. We must protect this compound. Felicia nodded seriously. Yes, another woman added. Since she came, everything changed. What changed? One woman asked. The smell now, Mama Ifeanyi continued. See, tomorrow I will go and borrow pepper from her. Perfect, the plan was set. The next afternoon, Wendy was cooking again when she heard a knock. Who is it? She asked. It is Mama Ifeanyi. Wendy smiled and opened the door. Good afternoon, ma. Afternoon, Mama Ifeanyi replied, stretching her neck slightly to see inside. I came to borrow small pepper. Of course, Wendy replied kindly. She turned to the cupboard, but Mama Ifeanyi's eyes moved quickly around the kitchen. She saw the red pot bubbling. She saw onions. She saw tomatoes, and she saw the bowl with brown liquid resting calmly. Her heart jumped. There it was. What is that? She asked, pretending innocence. Wendy followed her gaze and smiled. Oh, that is stock. Mama Ifeanyi blinked. Stock? Like meat water? Yes, Wendy said naturally. I just infused ginger in it. It brings out the flavor. Mama Ifeanyi's face remained neutral, but inside, confusion had entered. Flavor? Could flavor smell like that? Anyway, she collected the pepper and left. Outside, the committee gathered immediately. What did she say? They asked. She said it is stock, like stock water. There was silence. Then Felicia frowned. Is that all? That is what she said, oh, Mama Ifeanyi replied. The women looked at one another suspiciously. It sounded too simple to be true. Mama Ifeanyi shook her head slowly and said, you know, people do not confess easily like that. Felicia whispered, yes, maybe she's hiding the real thing. It must be something from her village shrine. By evening, a new rumor had formed. Wendy is clever. Wendy disguises it. Even the children began inventing theories. She does incantation before cooking. She dances while cooking. She adds something at midnight. Every imagination grew wings. Meanwhile, Wendy was simply cooking inside, but she wondered why the compound had become unusually quiet. She mentioned it to her husband. Do you notice that these people are now acting strange? Her husband laughed. They are just hungry. Don't mind them. Wendy smiled. If only hunger was the problem. Outside, Mama Ifeanyi concluded, see, we must further observe her. And so they deepened the investigation because the stew was still smelling like heaven, except that now heaven had become suspicious. The next Sunday, something dangerous happened. Wendy carried a small cooler to church. It was nothing dramatic. It was just normal food for after service. But in that compound, nothing Wendy did was normal anymore. Felicia noticed it first. She whispered, see, oh, she's carrying it outside. Mama Ifeanyi turned. What is she carrying? The cooler now, Felicia replied. They followed her with their eyes as if she was transporting secret documents. At church, Wendy shared small portions of the stew with two women sitting near her and said, please taste it. One woman closed her eyes after tasting it and declared, this is too good. Miraculously, that statement returned to the compound before Wendy did. And by evening, a new rumor had formed. She's expanding. Mama Ifeanyi sat upright. Expanding what? She gave her stew to the church people. Mama Ifeanyi's face tightened. This is how it starts. Felicia nodded. First the compound, now the church. Meanwhile, Wendy remained unaware that her culinary skill had become a spiritual operation. On Tuesday afternoon, the landlord's wife decided to verify personally. She knocked on Wendy's door. My daughter, what are you cooking? I am cooking stew, ma. Can I see it? Of course, ma. The landlord's wife entered, sat near the kitchen and watched. She saw how Wendy fried onions patiently, how she blended fresh tomatoes, added pepper calmly and spoke gently while cooking. "No hurry," Wendy said. The landlord's wife inhaled deeply. It smells rich." Wendy smiled. "I cook slowly, ma." That sentence sounded innocent, but outside it became a strategy. "She cooks slowly," Mama Ifeanyi repeated later after the landlady told her casually. "Maybe the slowness is the ritual." Felicia widened her eyes. "Do you think she also chants?" Mama Ifeanyi placed her hand on her chest. "I don't know yet." So they upgraded the observation. The children were now instructed to check at night. "Stand near her window after 10, Mama Ifeanyi ordered. "Why?" the little boy asked. "Just listen." That night, the small spy reported back. "I saw her cutting ginger." "Only ginger?" Mama Ifeanyi asked. "Yes," the boy replied. Mama Ifeanyi frowned. This is too organized." By Thursday, the compound was divided. Some believed it was pure skill, but some still believed it was something deeper. One woman said, "If it is only stock, why does my own not smell like that?" Another person replied, "Because you rush." The first time Wendy sensed tension properly was when two children ran away from her door, giggling nervously. She asked them, "Why are you running?" But they did not answer. Later that evening, she greeted Mama Ifeanyi. "Good evening, ma." "Evening," Mama Ifeanyi replied stiffly. "Is everything okay?" Wendy asked. Mama Ifeanyi nodded. "Very okay," but it was not very okay. Inside her room, Wendy told her husband again, "I think people are uncomfortable with me." Her husband laughed loudly. Don't mind them. They just want to taste your stew." Wendy shook her head. "I don't think this is stew jealousy. This is something else." And then the next day, something serious happened. A woman's husband returned home praising Wendy's stew loudly. "You should learn from that new woman. Her stew is heavenly," he told his wife carelessly. That was gasoline, because the wife did not sleep peacefully that night, and by morning she joined the committee of concern. "This is no longer cooking," she said. "This is spiritual influence." Mama Ifeanyi nodded slowly. "Oh, so now you understand." Felicia whispered, "Maybe she adds something that attracts favor." That word settled heavily. Attraction, favor, influence. Suddenly, Wendy's quietness became suspicious. Her husband's happiness became evidence, and her red pot became a symbol. One afternoon, Mama Ifeanyi gathered the women properly near the tap. "We must address this," she said. "How?" they asked. "We will confront her." Felicia blinked. "Directly?" "Yes," Mama Ifeanyi replied. The plan was simple. They would not shout. They would just ask questions. That evening, 5 women walked to Wendy's door together. They knocked and Wendy opened. She saw their faces and knew immediately that this was not about borrowing pepper. "How can I help you, please?" she asked them. Mama Ifeanyi cleared her throat. "We need to talk." The tone with which she said it was serious, so Wendy stepped aside. "Please come in." They entered cautiously, scanning the kitchen like detectives. The red pot sat on the stove. Felicia stared at it as if it might confess on its own. Mama Ifeanyi spoke first. "My daughter, you're cooking." "Yes?" Wendy asked. "It is not ordinary," Mama Ifeanyi added. Wendy blinked. "Thank you." "No," Mama Ifeanyi said. "We mean it is not ordinary." Wendy looked from one face to another and asked, "What do you mean?" Felicia leaned forward. "Are you adding anything spiritual to it?" The question landed heavily in the air. Wendy stared at them. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then she laughed out of disbelief, but nobody laughed with her. And that was when Wendy realized this was serious. She stopped laughing slowly and looked at each face carefully. Mama Ifeanyi's eyes were sharp. Felicia looked nervous but determined, while the other women avoided direct eye contact as if they were present but not fully responsible. "Spiritual?" Wendy repeated calmly. "Yes," Mama Ifeanyi said. "We need clarity." "Clarity about stew?" "Yes." Wendy exhaled slowly. She did not argue with them. She simply leaned on the kitchen counter and folded her arms. Are you people afraid of my pepper? Nobody smiled. Felicia shook her head. It is not about the pepper. Then what is it? Wendy asked. Mama Ifeanyi spoke cautiously, choosing her words like someone defusing a bomb. Since you came, things have changed. How so? Wendy asked. The smell. Wendy blinked again. The smell? Yes, Mama Ifeanyi replied. My cooking? Yes. And that is a problem, Wendy asked. It is not normal, Mama Ifeanyi declared. Wendy looked at the red pot quietly bubbling as if it had nothing to do with the meeting. I cook with ginger, she said. The women exchanged glances. Only ginger? They asked. And stockfish water. There it was again, the brown liquid. Mama Ifeanyi cleared her throat. Stockfish? The same stockfish we used to cook soup? But it doesn't smell like that. Wendy tilted her head slightly. Have you tried soaking it with ginger overnight? None of them answered. Felicia asked, so there is nothing else? Wendy raised her eyebrows. Like what? Mama Ifeanyi lowered her voice. You know, all these small things that you people go and collect. Wendy shook her head slowly. No, none of that. They all went mute as the pot continued to boil confidently, almost mocking the tension. Finally, Wendy said something unexpected. Okay, come tomorrow evening. The women looked confused. Come for what? I will cook in front of everybody tomorrow evening. Mama Ifeanyi narrowed her eyes. In front of everybody? Yes, Wendy nodded. Why? So that the mystery can be demystified, Wendy replied. Mama Ifeanyi nodded slowly. Okay, we will come. The invitation immediately spread, and by night, the entire compound knew. Wendy was cooking publicly. The landlord even adjusted his schedule, and the children were excited as if it was a festival. The next evening, plastic chairs appeared in front of Wendy's door. Women arrived early while the men pretended to pass by casually but remained nearby. The landlord's wife sat in the front row. Wendy came out and placed the red pot on the stove outside for everyone to see. She washed tomatoes openly, chopped onions slowly, and blended pepper in front of witnesses. Observe carefully, she said. Mama Ifeanyi folded her arms. We are observing. Wendy placed stockfish into a bowl of warm water. She added crushed ginger and said, Step 1, soak the fish with ginger and leave it. The children leaned forward, the men sniffed, while the women watched like scientists at an experiment. Wendy fried her onions patiently. She allowed them to sizzle and to brown properly. She added blended pepper and reduced the heat. Then she explained, no rushing. Felicia whispered, ha, she's serious so. Mama Ifeanyi nodded cautiously. Then Wendy lifted the bowl of brown liquid and gasps erupted. There! Watch, let's see. Wendy smiled gently. This is the mysterious brown water. She poured it into the pot slowly and steam rose dramatically. The smell hit the compound instantly and everyone froze. One child clapped before being silenced by his mother. Wendy continued cooking calmly. She added seasoning, stirred gently, tasted and adjusted. No magic, only patience, she said. Even Mama Ifeanyi's serious face twitched slightly at this point. After some time, Wendy dished small portions into plates and said, please taste. Nobody moved first. Then the landlord's wife stood bravely. She collected a plate and tasted it suspiciously. She closed her eyes for a moment. Somebody whispered, well? The landlord's wife gulped hard and exclaimed, this is good. The tension reduced slightly. Felicia tasted it next. She licked it thoughtfully and commented, it is normal. Wendy raised one eyebrow and asked, normal? Felicia corrected herself quickly. I mean very good. And so one by one, people tasted and no one fainted, no one levitated or spoke in tongues. It was simply stew. Mama Ifeanyi finally stepped forward. She collected a small spoon and tasted with dignity. She licked it slowly and swallowed. Then she looked at Wendy and asked, so it is truly ginger? Yes, Wendy replied. And stockfish water? Yes, Wendy nodded. Mama Ifeanyi nodded her head. That sound meant acceptance, embarrassment, and pride all at once. The crowd began to disperse slowly. Some women avoided eye contact with Wendy. Some laughed nervously, while some immediately began asking questions about measurements. How much ginger should we put? How long should we soak it? What type of pepper do you use? And Wendy answered all of them patiently. By night, the compound smelled of relief. Mama Ifeanyi was in her room when Felicia messaged her. So, no jazz? Mama Ifeanyi replied after a long pause. No jazz. Then she added what was harder to admit than spiritual explanation. It was just skill all along. That word sat heavily in her chest. Skill. Skill meant there was no demon to blame, no mystery to fear, and no spiritual advantage to suspect. It meant somebody in the same compound was simply better at something, and that realization was uncomfortable. The next morning, the compound felt slightly awkward when Wendy stepped out to sweep her front space. Greetings came carefully. Morning, morning. Nobody mentioned the public cooking event directly. Nobody said sorry because Nigerian compounds do not apologize easily. They just adjust quietly. Felicia walked past and cleared her throat. Your stew yesterday was educational. Wendy smiled. Thank you. Felicia hesitated and then said, if you have time, maybe you can show me the soaking method. Well, that was the closest thing to apology she could manage. Wendy nodded. Anytime. Mama Ifeanyi watched from her window and she felt strange. For days, she had built suspicion like a house. Now, that house had collapsed neatly without noise. She stepped outside slowly and called, my daughter. Wendy turned respectfully. Yes, ma. Mama Ifeanyi adjusted her wrapper and spoke carefully. You cook well. Thank you, ma. Wendy smiled. She paused for a moment and then continued. Next time, add more pepper, Mama Ifeanyi said, pretending authority. Wendy almost laughed, but she controlled herself. Okay, ma. She understood that was Mama Ifeanyi's own peace offering. The children also reacted fastest. They no longer peeped like spies. They now came openly. Auntie Wendy, are you cooking today? She smiled. Yes. Can we help you? They asked. Okay, you can peel onions for me. And they ran inside excitedly. The men in the compound also shifted. One evening, a husband said to his wife, ask Wendy to teach you how to make her stew. His wife stared at him angrily and shouted, go and learn it yourself. He went mute. Of course, jealousy did not disappear completely. It only changed shape. Some women began competing properly. One of them said, today I will fry my own stew longer. Another added extra ginger aggressively. As such, the compound began smelling like an experiment lab for 3 days. One afternoon, the landlord's wife visited Wendy and said, you handled that very well. Handled what? Wendy asked. The accusation. Wendy shrugged slightly. If I had reacted badly, it would have just confirmed their fear. The landlord's wife nodded slowly. That is wisdom. Outside, Mama Ifeanyi overheard parts of that sentence, reacted badly, and that word touched her. She remembered how serious she had been, how convinced and how ready she had been to label skill as spiritual manipulation. That evening, she called Felicia and said, we must be careful in this life. Felicia replied, yes. Mama Ifeanyi added, sometimes we suspect people because we cannot explain them. Felicia was quiet. Mama Ifeanyi continued, if she had shouted that day, we would say she was guilty. Felicia sighed. That is true. Across the compound, Wendy prepared another pot of stew, but this time, nobody gathered like investigators. As the smell rose confidently again, so did their respect for her grow. One woman said, "She just knows what she's doing. There's nothing more." Another one replied, "Yes, maybe we were overthinking." That night, Wendy sat outside with her husband. He asked her playfully, "Do you think they'll stop talking?" Wendy smiled. "People always talk. Does it bother you?" he asked. She shook her head and said, "As long as my stew still tastes good, I don't mind." He laughed loudly. Inside her room, Mama Ifeanyi lay down thinking deeply. She whispered to herself, "Not everything sweet is spiritual." And from that day forward, whenever the stew smelled like heaven, she did not rush to form a committee of suspicion. She simply asked for the recipe. Hi besties, thank you for watching the story. The story is dedicated to one of our besties, Wendy, whose birthday is today. I wish you a very happy birthday, Wendy, and I pray that this year bears forth healthy fruits in your life. Fruits that will speak for you and cancel any negative pattern. Besties, let's kindly wish her a very happy birthday in the comment section. Kindly share the story out with your loved ones and give the story a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel if you've not done so by now. Until I bring another story your way. Bye!